It began at 7:30 a.m. British soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder in their trenches, boots slick with mud, rifles gripped tight, bayonets fixed. The sun was just beginning to rise through the haze, casting a dull light over the blood-soaked fields of northern France. They were told the German lines had been obliterated, that after a week-long artillery barrage, one of the heaviest in history, there'd be little left to fight. The ground had shaken for days. Over 1.5 million shells had been fired. Commanders believed nothing human could survive it, so they went over the top. Whistles blew, men climbed ladders, some shaking, others silent, and they walked, not ran, walked in rows toward the enemy. What followed was not war, it was slaughter. The Germans had survived. Deep in reinforced dugouts, they had waited out the bombardment, and when the British appeared, walking across the open field in neat formation, they rose from the earth and opened fire. Machine guns tore through the first wave in seconds, bodies fell in rows, some collapsed without a sound. Others screamed and flailed in the mud as bullets ripped through flesh and bone. Men tripped over the fallen. Some crawled forward anyway. Others turned and tried to run, only to be gunned down before they could make it back. By the end of that first day, 57,470 British soldiers had fallen. It was the bloodiest day in British military history. The battle didn't end there. It dragged on for 141 days, from July 1st to November 18th, 1916. Over 1 million men, British, French, and German, were killed or wounded. All for a few miles of ground that changed hands again and again. The fields of the Somme turned into a graveyard. Trenches overflowed with rainwater and blood. Rats fed on corpses. Men slept beside the dead, used them for cover, tripped over arms and boots half buried in mud. Some soldiers drowned in flooded shell craters, too weak to climb out, their cries fading beneath the rain. Gas drifted across the lines. Shrapnel tore men apart. A single shell could bury dozens alive. And still, the whistles blew. Still, they were ordered forward. And still, they went. There were moments of heroism, a medic dragging 3 men to safety while shells burst around him. A runner delivering a message through machine gun fire, only to collapse a second after handing it off. Whole companies refusing to retreat, even as their numbers were cut in half. But there was no glory, no grand victory, just mud, blood, and grief. In one assault, a battalion lost every single officer within an hour. In another, a group of soldiers reached the enemy trenches, only to find they'd run out of ammunition. They fought with bayonets, fists, anything they could find. None came back. Back home, families waited for letters that never arrived. Mothers opened envelopes containing only a name. Widows stared at photographs and tried to remember the sound of their husbands' voices. Some men simply disappeared, blown apart so completely that nothing remained. By winter, the battle finally ended. The British had advanced only a few miles. The front lines had shifted, but not by much. Villages had been destroyed, fields flattened, forests reduced to splinters, and hundreds of thousands of men were gone. The land itself became a wound. Even today, farmers along the Somme still find rusted helmets, shell fragments, and bones beneath the soil. Entire cemeteries stretch across the countryside, row upon row of white headstones, some marked with names, others just say, "A soldier of the Great War, known unto God." The Battle of the Somme wasn't just a military operation. It was a generation's end, a lesson carved in blood and silence. And for those who walked into that hail of fire on July 1st, who stepped into the open believing the worst was already over, it became the moment they stopped being boys and started dying by the thousands. Thank you for listening to Last Post History. Subscribe for more true stories from the world at war.